Yes, hello and welcome to another episode of the Wrestling Skull podcast. I'm your host John Scott, joined as always by my co-host Matt Essex. Matt, how are you doing this week? After coming off the back end of last week and getting into what was the WWE Fastlane last night, are you still getting over last night in a good way or a bad way? We'll obviously find that out. But how are you doing? Are you fully recovered, I guess, from last night's events?
Well, I came into Fastlane thinking, like, this is going to be good, so many things that I'm 50-50 on, and I've come out and I'm thinking it's not so much Fastlane, I'm going to call it Fastlane now. It's like a complete farce.
Yeah, well, there was a lot of things that were farce, that's for sure, but we'll get to that later on. Yeah, we're going to obviously be talking about WWE Fastlane on the show today. That was last night, and just want to throw out there some kind of breaking news that's been made official. I think we all kind of knew he was going to be inducted. We were just kind of waiting for that official announcement. But that is that Rick Rude will be going into the WWE Hall of Fame class of 2017. And they've also announced that Ricky the Dragon Steamboat will be inducting Rick Rude. Will be be there, and obviously he'll do obviously the speech and whatnot. Matt, I guess that's we kind of knew this was coming. It was kind of reported quite a while ago that it would be Rick Rude, but we were just waiting for that official announcement. And definitely no qualms from me on this one to see Rick Rude going into the Hall of Fame. Probably slightly overdue, like most of these guys are, but an unbelievable talent, and was a tremendous heel back in the day. Like, I remember really disliking this guy in the WWF because he, the pants he wore with his own face on it and stuff like that. So many memorable moments with Rick Rude, obviously through the years.
Yeah, he definitely falls into the category of about time. Been waiting ages for him to be in the Hall of Fame, and definitely well deserved. And he was definitely on my short list as well of people that if I was going to get asked the question more and more often, like, who do I think should be in the Hall of Fame, he always was on my short list. And like you said, so good, and so good at getting people to hate him. And I used to like I wouldn't say so much that I liked it, but I found that it did the job when he came out and did that entrance and talked about all the women wanting him,
Yeah.
It definitely got a lot of people's backs up, that's for sure.
Yeah, he knew how to draw heat on himself, which is something that's almost missing from most of the WWE heels these days. It's really difficult to get some good heat now. In fact, it's almost reversed. We see a lot of babyface getting the heat rather than the heels these days. So really good call for WWE, and obviously be looking forward to that and seeing him inducted to the Hall of Fame. But Matt, we have to address more pressing issues from last night's WWE Fastlane event, pay-per-view, whatever you want to call it. Going into this one, Matt, I know we discussed some of the matches last week. It was an interesting night, to say the least. I'll tell you that much on my part. Just want to let everybody know that we did have the kickoff match. Matt, I don't know if you got to see that match at all before the night started.
Yeah, no, I did see that. It was pretty alright actually, that one. Usually I'm becoming accustomed to seeing kickoff matches that are not so great, but I wouldn't say it was amazing, but yeah, it was good for a kickoff, I'd say.
Yeah, was what it. I mean, it was what it was. It's one of those things where I think that WWE, certainly from the perspective of trying to get things going on this Fastlane, they're doing an okay job. But like I say, most of the time these Fastlane matches, the kickoff matches, sometimes they are what they are, and you have to call a spade because sometimes there's only so much you can get out of them. I'm not always sure it's breathtakingly good from what you get and why, but nonetheless, I did enjoy it. I did not enjoy it, so I do think it was okay in that sense. But obviously we got what we got. I mean, we don't obviously for those of you. I know I always say this every week, so the normal listeners will probably get fed up with me saying, but we don't rate the kickoff matches at all on this one. Just purely because I always think it's a little bit unfair on those guys. But nonetheless, yeah, we got a nice kickoff. That match just lasting just over 9 minutes, and of course, Rick Swann and Arico won. So nice win for them. Now, Matt, going on to the main pay-per-view, what we got here, we got a nice. I felt like a nice opening match to the night. I kind of liked the positioning of this match. I know a few others kind of didn't, and I heard some reviews. I had some emails saying that it should have been later on the card and they should be making more out of Joe. But for me, I didn't have a problem where this was positioned. Could have been a lot worse. And of course, that was a match between Sami Zayn and Samoa Joe. Matt, how did this go for you? Because obviously we were kind of waiting for this to be announced, and it was literally announced, and we got that match. How did that match go for you, Matt, when you was watching Joe in his kind of first, I guess, main match on the roster in a WWE sort of pay-per-view event?
Well, considering how the match went down, I think they did put it on the right place on the card, because it just had the weird feeling about it to me. It felt incredibly one-sided for one thing, and I was expecting a lot more fight out of Sami Zayn, and it was kind of almost like they were just showcasing Joe, saying like, well, this is what Joe can do, this is what Joe's capable of, and in the end, though, I really wasn't happy with the result of the match either, because it just felt really cut and dry. It felt like, that's the end of this feud, and just put like a massive full stop at the end of it. When I was hoping for something a bit more, like perhaps we'd see more out of these two, but it just seemed to be put to bed way too early. Yeah,
I mean, I think at this stage, Joe he's not got the aura of the old Joe just yet. With this, that's for sure. But I still think it's in his locker. I just think that he might, and WWE might be holding it back a little bit. Yeah, I mean, it was very one-sided. The problem with this, man, I just felt like, unless this was going to continue to WrestleMania or something like that, I felt like this was the wrong opponent for Joe. And if they wanted to showcase Joe, then you have him sort of squash somebody else that doesn't genuinely always get squashed. I mean, obviously Sami Zayn's coming off that feud with Braun Strowman, so you're like chucking him into another shark here, almost to be eaten, and I felt like that's how it come across. Of course, Joe got the victory, as Matt said, winning by submission, and just under 10 minutes. But like I said, it wasn't. It was a nice vibe match. I felt like it was in the right spot on the card, considering what happened, as Matt said, and. I think it was what it was. I'm kind of like slightly unhappy with the way they're dealing with Sami Zayn currently. I'm hoping that there's something at the end of the tunnel for him, but who can tell at the moment. Matt, as far as you're concerned, this Joe Sami Zayn thing that's happening at the moment, is this the end of it, or do you think WWE have got more in this to go towards something bigger at WrestleMania, or do you think that Sami Zayn will get, put in a sort of multi-man match, and Joe might get a big match at WrestleMania, or do you think that they both could end up in multi-man sort of matches at Mania if they're not careful?
Well, that's what I was saying. That the surprise to me was that this whole feud seemed to be just finished now, because when you get finished by a submission, that's kind of like. That's their own admission that they give up. So it kind of leaves Sami Zayn in the difficult position of where he could go from that, because you couldn't really challenge for a rematch knowing that you just lost and it was your own fault that you lost. Yeah. But it does kind of open up other doors for me that could be interesting, because we know that Balor is due like an imminent return, and someone like Joe is of that level. They're on an even level, and it would be a credible opponent. I mean, of course, this going back to the age-old thing of we've seen it on NXT. Are we getting tired of everything that we've seen on NXT? But given that Balor has to come back and make a return at some point, and there's a short list, very, very short list of people that you can face. In fact, Joe would be probably one of the only ones with a free enough schedule that they can actually pull that off. Yeah, that's true. That is currently true. What do you give this match, Matt, out of the 5 stars for you on this one? I've got to be a little bit harsher than I'd like for this, because it was the wrong result for me, and also I felt like a little bit too one-sided, a little bit too show-offy for Joe. So I'll give it a 2. I have to give it 2.
Yeah, Matt's been definitely ruthless tonight with his result.
Yeah.
I'm gonna stick with what I stick with. I mean, I've watched this. I've only seen it once, and sometimes when I watch it back, if I get time to watch some of the matches back, I always rate it slightly different, because I always think when you're watching it in the live feel, there's a different reaction. There's a different way I look at a match. But always when I go back and watch a match, it's normally the right opinion. But I only saw this one once, so I'm going to stick to it. I gave this just an in between 3 stars on this one. A little bit of a pass for this, despite not enjoying the sort of relatively bad outcome where we don't kind of know where we're going in the future. Okay, it's worth noting, I've wrote some notes here, that Enzo and Cass, they kind of done their usual little stick. I mean, I got a feeling they've got to be careful with this, Matt, because I think that they might be tiring this stuff out a little bit with these two, especially Enzo. And it's hard because the guy's so good on the mic, but I feel like they're exposing him too much at the moment. Like they're doing so much of it that people are going to get drained, similar to the New Day. So they do have to be careful with this stuff. Especially with that bloody advert that they're doing at the moment, that commercial. That's an absolute nightmare every time I see that one come up. But they do have to be slightly careful there. Bayley also cut a promo about tonight's about the match with Charlotte, and how she was dominating, and she's. She leaves Dana Brooke in the back, and Nia Jax arrived and promised to destroy Banks and then come for the title. So there's a little bit of shenanigans there. Matt, next match we got up here was the Raw Tag Team Championship match between Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson, obviously up against Enzo and Big Cass. For you, Matt, was this match a decent tag team match, or is this... Are we not buying into the division at the moment? What did you think of this match? Because I felt it was a little bit stale for me, considering who was in it. I was expecting a bit more. I thought that Big Cass and sort of Gallows, I thought it was a perfect little match between those two going to go on. But what did you think, really, Matt, on this one?
Yeah, well, like you said, I was expecting more from these two teams, considering the kind of experience that they have. But I'm getting kind of tired of the same old routine, and not just that these two teams like fight each other. It's the routine of, like, every time Enzo gets in the ring, like the heel team will dominate him and make him look kind of pathetic in the ring, like he needs Cass. And then, like, as soon as Cass gets in the ring, it's like everyone's like, oh dear, here comes the big guy. Everyone's got to run in scared now, and then they get taken out by Cass. But then as soon as Cass tags out again, it switches back, and then the bad guys. I see that formula so often with the team now, and maybe I'm reading a little bit too much into this, but if they keep playing it that way, it's definitely feeling like a breakup could be on the horizon. Like how long can that go on before Cass realizes he's got some real dead weight that he's carrying in this team and has to cut that loose? I'm probably looking too much into that, but if they keep going that way, that's the only logical thing they should do, because it's just silly now at this point.
Yeah, I think so. It just never really got into this one from the get go. I wanted to. I kept wanting it to pull me in, but it just didn't. And I'm such a big fan of a lot of these guys. Probably all 4 of them in their own individual ways. But I just feel like for the club, I think they pulled that trigger way too late. They should have been dominating that division a lot sooner, and I don't necessarily mean that they had to